proudly presents What's the Scuttlebutt podcast with your host, Don Abernathy.
Digital 410 Productions proudly presents the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast with your host, Don Abernathy.
Mixed a little bit of the old and the new in there. For some reason, it cut off the part with Jeff. Joining us from Texas this week. He was gone last week, but he's back again this week from his new created home podcast studio. Our co-host, Jeff Copsetta. Jeff, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I don't know. Is that a bad omen that she cut me off? She didn't even say my name. That's my favorite part.
Well, hold on here. I can fix that. No. Well, that's weird. I adjusted it because last week you weren't here, but let's just throw this in there real quick.
Digital 410 Productions proudly presents the What's the Scuttlebutt podcast with your host, Don Abernathy and Jeff Copsetta.
There you go. All is good in the world. See, that's what happens when I got to adjust things, and then I forget to readjust things, and then we have to adjust things on the fly, even though we're live. But what's going on, everybody? What's going on, YouTube? Thank you for hanging out. What's going on with us, Twitch audience? And hopefully some of you are joining us via YouTube through the Facebook page. If you want to chat with us through this podcast, head over to YouTube and watch the live stream there, and you can participate in the chat window and talk to us, or you can give us a call. We want to hear from you. 239-299-3896. So, do you guys always get crappy weather in the summer in Texas? I just thought that was a Florida thing. I wasn't aware that you guys get hail first and foremost. What is with all the hail, by the way? But yeah, it's like storms are one thing, but when the heavens are falling on you and putting golf ball sized dents in all your property, that's a whole other problem, fella.
Yeah, it's a problem. But I'll tell you, May, it seems like Memorial Day, don't make plans in the hill country of Texas on Memorial Day, because we always do. Mm-hmm. And we always get pummeled with something. I mean, we usually see hail maybe once a year, but not like what we just had a couple weeks ago. And then, like thunderstorms every day this week, hit or miss. If they hit, it's in the afternoon. It's weird. I don't know, man. It's been crazy, but it's not summer yet. So let's do it now. Get it over with, and enjoy summer.
I don't know if it's the Floridian in me, but to me, whenever it gets 91 degrees every day, it's summer. I don't care what month it is. It's just doggone hot. It's summertime. But I just had a thought, because you've recently had a full-time career change. Is your new museum doing something for Memorial Weekend, or is this going to be the first time in a while you've had a weekend free of commitment to history that you're going to be able to spend a little free time with your family this year?
It's going to be amazing. Yeah. So basically, I've been working every Memorial Day. I mean, I was a park ranger for 9 years. That's a big weekend. And then I went right into the museum field. That was always a program weekend. So, I don't know, it was probably 13, 14 years in a row that Memorial Day, I was working.
Yeah.
Last year, because of COVID, that was when we were right at the beginning of COVID. Everybody was freaking out. So, I actually got to hang out with the family last Memorial Day. So, same thing this year. Yeah, the career change happening officially really next week. But taking a 4-day for Memorial Day for sure, to hang out with the wife and kids and just enjoy it like a normal person should, in honor of what that holiday is all about. And so we'll see. I'm going to kind of go into like partial retirement for the summer, and hope to attack in a different direction in the fall. But I definitely plan on spending the summer with my kids, the new baby that's coming in June, and my wife. This is baby number 4, and we never had, it just didn't line up.
Yeah.
To be able to hang out with the newborn. We either financially couldn't do it or whatever, it just didn't happen. So this time, it's the last one. We're gonna make it happen.
Well, congrats. How far along is she? Is she ready to ride?
Like a year and a half.
A year and a half. Oh, no, that's right. No, what threw me off was you posted anniversary photos the other day, and in one of the photos, she was still pregnant. So that's what threw me off, because like the last photo I seen of her was the one you just posted, I think, on Instagram of her still pregnant.
Yeah.
Like, way pregnant.
Yeah. she's been pregnant since I've known her. It seems like. No,
I
that
think.
picture's actually that picture's pretty recent. That picture was taken maybe a month ago. The one that you just saw. So that's this baby.
Well, that's what I
She's a
said.
month
I was like,
further.
I'm like, when did she do? You're like, oh, a year and a half ago.
Yeah. No, she's like been pregnant for a year and a half.
Okay. So,
No,
I
she's
thought you were. I'm like, I'm not
so
that out of touch that this kid was born a year and a half ago, and I'm that such a horrible person. I didn't realize it. So I'm like backpedaling. Like, wait a minute, you just posted a photo where she looks like she's about to drop any day.
yeah. No, she's due probably the end of June. I mean, the due date's the beginning of July, but it's this little guy is far ahead. He in another couple of weeks he'll weigh more than my first son when he was born,
Well, you know,
and we still have another 6 weeks to go, 5 weeks to go. So.
June 29th is a good D-Day. So if she wants to drop that bomb on June 29th, your child and I will celebrate the same birthday. So
I've actually got you covered because number 2 was born on June 29th. My first daughter was June 29th. So you're covered.
how crazy would that be, though? Both your siblings, you have 2 kids who are siblings who are born on the same day.
Well, I was born June 3rd. My son's born June 9th. And then daughter June 29th. Number 3, she was born in February. She's weird.
Yeah,
I'm
one of
actually
those.
hoping this one comes around June 20. I'm hoping it's June 25th. That's like Custer Day. That's the Bella Little Bighorn.
Yeah, you just
That's
have to every month or just every year for June. It's like, well, here comes the June birthday budget blowout. Like in my family right now, we're like that with all the nieces, nephews, and extended family. Like right now, I think April up until the end of August, every month there's like at least 3 birthdays. So we're constantly going to kids' parties or young adults'
Yeah.
parties. It's like every week, oh, we gotta go out and buy presents again, huh? What? My buddy's like that. His daughter and his wife have the same birthday, so that's kind of cool. But yeah.
Huh, cool.
So what else has been going on over in your world, fella?
Yeah. So, well, we're not going to be doing any programming Memorial Day at the museum, the Highland Lakes Air Museum in Burnett. That's we've mentioned that before. Some of you know where I work professionally, but because of liabilities and everything, I can't mention that. But that's the one that I'm moving away from. But coming in to I don't know how much more time I'm going to spend at Highland Lakes Air Museum. I mean, it is volunteer. I'm a CAF member. They elected me to or appointed me to be the museum director, but really, we do what we can with what we got.
Sure.
The good thing is over the past few years, I've really developed a little bit of a following of other reenactors and guys and gals that just really love that time in history, and they're loyal everywhere. They're gonna go wherever the reenactments are. I mean, just like you, traveling to a lot of different ones, and a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, they don't just do one reenactment. They don't just volunteer at one museum or one place. So that's what a lot of my help. I'm lucky to have people, individuals like that are really invested and are looking for programming. So we had our air show in March. We talked about that an episode or 2 ago.
Yep.
It was a record-breaking, crowd in the 29 years they've been doing it. So I've kind of challenged myself to create 4 public programs a year to really kind of get back in with the community, because this squadron has suffered some traumatic losses. They lost 3 aircraft in about a month and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, a C-47, L-17, and the SNJ. So the SNJ's back up. The C-47 was a total loss. There's another one coming in that's been donated to us, but that's probably another year out when it's actually on site. So, so building a ground forces unit, getting more reenactors to come in to do educational programs. We're building a cadet program that's brand new to the squadron. So our next public program is June 19th for anybody that's going to be in the area on June 19th. It's a Saturday. We're doing wine and wings. We're going to have a local wine vendor come out, set up, and we're going to raffle off a couple flights in the SNJ. We've got a couple other experiences. We've got about 8 items, actually, that we're raffling. We're going to have live music, but by a couple different groups, 40s, 50s style music. So it's going to be all outside. We'll demonstrate weapons. We're going to bring the Bell 47 helicopter out, like kids climbing that. So that's like a little little flying bubble helicopter.
Yeah.
Just kind of have like a kid corner, probably going to have popcorn, We're going to invite, a bunch of the county commissioners, the city manager, the mayor, get them out there, have a glass of wine with us, watch airplanes flying in the evening. So we're hoping it's a pretty good event. I mean, it's crunch time. We're about 30 days out. So we still haven't even finalized the permit with the city yet. So it's going to be like boom, boom, boom to try to, develop these programs. But hopefully it'll start bringing more reenactors to my area, give us more content, for What's the Scuttlebutt, and maybe create more sponsors for the podcast, and everybody kind of all hands washing the other to feed it off of each other. So, yeah, there's some exciting things coming up here recently.
What is the likelihood now that you're freed up a little bit that you may expand your participation in this hobby side where you might actually venture out and just go participate instead of plan, initiate, and facilitate an event? Have you thought about maybe expanding your impressions, getting some gear, and maybe just say, it'd be nice for me just to show up at a weekend and do nothing but lay around and maybe get up and go run where I'm told to run, and then come back and just be the layabout, be the living history display of showing just, hey, I don't have to worry about making sure the trains are running. I don't have to do this program. I can just sit here and participate and just be a reenactor for once.
Dude, that would be awesome. That's my goal. It's like being a captain that wants to be promoted to sergeant.
Maybe what we should do is maybe we should plan ahead. It's usually January, February. We need to try to get you out to the Lakeland, Georgia event. It's in Georgia. That's the one at the Camp Patton Boy Scout camp, where it's basically a 8-mile, 4-hour tactical event, and then we do a 45-minute public event, and then the next day a tactical event, and we're just out in the woods humping and shooting and just doing our thing. I think you might enjoy that.
Oh man, yeah. There's a couple that are on my radar around the country. One is it's called Troops and Trains. Okay. It's actually kind of closer to my neck of the woods where I grew up in New Jersey, up over, I think it's in Strasburg, PA. Okay. That's definitely on my bucket list. That one and the LA Air Raid sounds like another really cool one.
My bucket list item, but see, the part is, because I live all the way down in the tip of Florida, to get to that D-Day event in Ohio.
Oh yeah.
It's a 17-hour drive from here to my mom's house, and that's in northern Kentucky. And so it would be another 6-hour drive on top of that. So you're looking at roughly, with travel, stopping, and sleeping, 24 hours each way travel time. So that means I'd almost have to take an entire week off of work to facilitate that, or deal with TSA and transporting firearms to the airport. And then even still, you have to fly like to PA or like Cleveland, Ohio, and then rent a car and then travel hours to get there. But I got to figure out the logistics for that one, because that's definitely on my bucket list to get up there for that D-Day event in Ohio, because that's like probably the largest living history event in the freaking nation right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I know there's one. So one of my buddies, we're going to get him on our show, Steve. He's really, you follow him on Instagram, I'm sure. Got numerous impressions from World War II, Vietnam. I mean, the guy's great. He's part of the ADT jump team there, and I guess they're headquartered out of Franklin, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And they're developing, I guess that's like the World War II reenactor jump school. Like that's where you go to train, or at least one of the places.
Yeah, there's one in Pensacola, Florida. We had them on there from the Round Canopy jump team, and they train out of there. And I'm sure there's numerous ones but for his group, that's kind of their main hub. And he was telling me that they're actually looking at expanding it to not just jump school, but more of almost like a national World War II reenactor boot camp
training center.
That'd be cool.
Get armor out there, train on armor, train infantry, get a bunch of women out there and all the branches, the waves, the wax, the spars, the wasps, all the women's services. I mean, it sounds like it could really potentially take off. And I know they've got an event or a training event, I guess, in October for about a week or so. I'm really hoping I've got the time to go up there and just kind of shadow Steve and see what that's like, see what
Would
it's about.
would you
Hopefully
jump?
get up in one of those T-47s. What's that?
Would you jump?
Negative.
The
No.
the machismo in me were like, yeah, that sounds badass, and I really put some thought into it because to be honest with you, I don't know what your friends charge, but that round canopy jump team for a weekend, like the cover is like cheaper than if you went to just a normal Cessna, go train for 5 hours and do like a tandem jump. They're like their
Yeah.
weekend thing it's super affordable, but then I got to thinking about it. It's like I like the idea, but I just have. Well, no, it's like seriously. It's like I got a family business relying on me. I got 2 kids. It's like now when you think about jumping, I'm no longer thinking about myself. I'm thinking about what if something were to happen. How many people would that affect? And that's what's slowing me down on, doing it because I watch his videos and I really think about it and then I'm like, well, but what if? I mean, not what if rarely happens, but it happens.
It happens. No, I hear you. I mean, I did a lot of crazy stuff in the Army. I mean, we were training in choppers like once a week before we deployed, and we were always doing something crazy, rappelling off of something, jumping off in the water out of something. Like we were always doing crazy stuff. But yeah, you're like, at the point in my life now where it's like, I'm good. I'm good. I got nothing to prove.
I want to do a little.
But
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, just even before the World War II stuff, I remember like 5 or 6 years ago, we had some friends down from Jersey, and they were like going online thinking, "Hey, let's go out and skydive." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And I got to thinking about like, "Yeah, that'd be cool, but fuck, damn, I got a lot of people relying on me not to be dead." And it's like,
yeah.
"Hey, Real, did you hear? It's so insane to me that this many years later, we're still finding undetonated ordnances throughout the world. Just this week, last week, yeah, last Thursday, World War II bomb found in Frankfurt safely detonated after mass evacuation. A massive World War II bomb was found in Germany's financial capital, Frankfurt, was safely detonated in the early hours Thursday, the city's fire service said, allowing tens of thousands of evacuated residents to return home. The 500-kilogram unexploded bomb was unearthed during construction. That's how it always works. A lot of times I wonder if these bombs like landed in previously like super marshy wetlands, somewhere where they just not only did they not undetonate, not only did they not detonate, but they kind of buried themselves so deep in the ground that during the post-war cleanup, these things were just. I doubt people were just let's bury it with a tractor and let's move on. Maybe they did, but it's always surprising how many of these things are found. But anyhow, the 500-kilogram unexploded bomb was unearthed during construction work on Wednesday in a densely populated Nordland area of the city. The location firefighters said it made it particularly challenging to remove. The Frankfurt newspaper reported that the ordnance had been discovered right next to a children's playground, of course, with a depth of about 6.5 feet. Its report said that it controlled the blast, which happened after midnight. If you evacuated the whole town, why wait until midnight? But anyhow, sounded like the rumbling thunder and left a hole 3 meters deep and 10 meters wide. Firefighters said that they had covered the bomb with 40 truckloads of sand before detonating it in order to minimize damage to surrounding buildings. Around 25,000 people have been asked to evacuate the area, including the occupants of a nearby community hospital. Yeah, they're showing this map, and it's dead nuts in the middle of the city. It's definitely not out in farm area. Among residents who took shelter at the skating rink was 29-year-old Tobias carrying his pet cat in his cage. Even in Germany, when you're doing local news, you got to get the local angle. You got to find the guy to interview who had to dehome his cat for the weekend. 7 bombs were defused in 2020 on the land near Berlin, where Tesla plans to build its first factory in Europe for its electric cars. Other bombs were also discovered last year in Frankfurt, Cologne, and Dortmund. In Frankfurt, the discovery of a 1.4-ton bomb in 2017 led to the removal of 65,000 people, the biggest such evacuation in Europe since 1945. So it just goes to show you all these years later. So I was sitting around the house tonight preparing for the podcast, and I got to thinking, and I just set into my fancy cable voice activated remote control World War II and see what pops up. And of course you had Wind Talkers and all these other things. And then I saw this movie, and I know you watch a lot of or you've seen a lot of the older style movies, and we talk about older World War II movies on here. Have you ever seen Ambush Bay, or have you ever heard of Ambush Bay?
Never heard of it.
For the bay at the Joinville Island, plot. It came out in 1966, directed by Ron Winston. It has Hugh O'Brien, Mickey Rooney, James Mitchell, and Richard LaSalle. Plot. Prior to the 1944 American invasion of the Philippines, a hand-picked team of U.S. Marine Corps amphibious reconnaissance scouts is landed by a PBY Catalina with its mission of contacting intelligence agents with crucial information. Each Marine is not only experienced, but has special skills with the exception of the radio officer, PFC Grenier. I started watching this, and I got about 15 minutes into it. I don't know if it's because it's from 1966 and a lot of that stuff has a slow slog to it. I don't know if it's my picky eye and the fact that I'm like nitpicking their uniforms as they're going on. I'm like, well, they got the P-42s. That camo pattern looks a little funny. Why in the hell are they wearing army suspenders? And believe it or not, it was quick to have some main characters start dying off, but I really couldn't get into it, and then I realized, well, this is probably why I've never heard anybody talk about this movie, because it really wasn't, I don't know. So I bring that up because I got bored with that quickly, and so I went back, and I came across a documentary that I'd never heard of, and I'll play a quick preview clip of this. And so if you guys are bored and you're hanging around Netflix, actually, no, this is on Amazon, so I won't even play the Netflix sounder. I actually have the Netflix sounder I was going to play. But no, this is actually on Amazon. This is called, interestingly enough, this is called Forgiving Dr. Mengele.
On the 40th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, a handful of survivors of this monument to Nazi evil returned. Eva Kor, with her twin sister Miriam, found a record of their past. Eva and Miriam were 9 years old and in the front row when the Soviet soldiers liberated this death factory years ago. And they found among a few thousand survivors a large group of twins. Twins who underwent inhuman medical experiments at the hands of Dr. Joseph Mengele, the camp surgeon at Auschwitz, who was known as the Angel of Death.
Just to be free from the Nazis, that did not remove the pain they have inflicted upon me. There might be another way that survivors can heal themselves. I have found one way. Forgive your worst enemy. It will heal your soul and it will set you free. I, Eva Moses Kor, a twin who survived as a child Joseph Mengele's experiment at Auschwitz 50 years ago, hereby give amnesty to all Nazis who participated directly or indirectly in the murder of my family and millions of others.
It's improper. It's improper. I should be permitted. I should be asked. How can you speak in the name of the people who are not alive anymore? I mean, I shiver when I think of it.
Forgiving Dr. Mengele is a 2006 documentary film about Eva Moses Kor, a survivor of the Holocaust, and of Dr. Joseph Mengele and his staff who experimented on her twin sister, and as well as approximately 1,400 twins from Auschwitz. And I just started watching this. It's pretty interesting because parts of it take place were recorded in like 1980, So actually in 1985, a short 40 years later, and there's footage of her back at Auschwitz. And as you can imagine, it's in a lot more original condition now then than it is now, of course, because time goes by, all the wood rots away, etc. But it's an interesting story because as you heard her say there in her little speech that she's taken it upon herself to forgive this guy for the things that he did to her and her family. Then you heard another woman talking there who's also a surviving twin who said, where does she get off apologizing on all the behalf of us? But it's interesting, and we kind of talked about this with the canteens and how the canteen company moved to Chillicothe, Ohio at some point, which is where my aunt and uncle were teachers. And it's always weird when I start digging into some of this World War II stuff, and it really does remind you how small of a world we live in. So this survivor of Dr. Mengele, she went to Israel in the 50s, and then she met her soon-to-be husband, and they moved to the small town of Terre Haute, Indiana in 1964. Interestingly enough, Terre Haute, Indiana is a super small town. It's right on the border of Illinois. And that just happens to be the town where my other aunt and her husband basically ran a business. And I'm like watching this file footage of them interviewing her because she's doing real estate. And it's like Terre Haute in 2001. And I'm seeing them driving around this town. And I'm like, that woman lived there from 1966 to the mid-2000s. My uncle owned a Z-Bart, which is a rough proofing company that basically up until they start making cars out of plastic and putting undercoating on everything, they would rust proof everything underneath. He owned that company, and his wife was a banker and a Lonenberger basket salesperson, which was huge in the Midwest. I'm just thinking, there's a good point at very good chance in this small ass town between 1966 and the mid 2000s that my aunt could have very well had some sort of communication with this lady, because it's not a big town at all. But I'm just watching it, and she in her quest, it's weird. Her and her sister had these experiments because they had a historian on there say the reason Mengele liked twins so much is it basically gave him a built-in control group. You got two people that made up the same DNA. They basically have the same, at least the identical twins, the same genetic makeup, same color, eyes, and all that. So he could use one of them as a control, use the other one as the guinea pig, and see the different results. And one of the things that she got, and I haven't watched the entire thing because I was watching it before it came on here, and I don't know if she ever made progress on this. I know she didn't before her sister died, but one of the injections her sister got caused her sister's kidneys to stop growing. And so even when she got to be in her 60s, she had kidneys the size of a 10-year-old. And at one point, one of them failed, so the twin sister donated her kidney. And her twins, while she lived in Terre Haute, her other sister still lived in Israel. But while her sister was in the hospital with all these kidney problems, the doctors kept saying, man, if we only knew what was injected into her, And so this got Eva to go on his conquest to try to track down any sort of documentation or medical logs that Mengele kept that may be beneficial to the survivors and their later aging health problems, to have some sort of clue of what the hell were done to these people. But I'm sure that stuff was burnt a long, long time ago.
Because just last night, I like to kind of my daily routine. Some of the things I look up is I always check what's coming up on Turner Classic Movies for the day. I try to, because it never seems like there'll be like a really good movie that I wanted to see forever, just kind of thrown in the middle of junk in the middle of the day. Sort of like, it's not around an anniversary or a theme or a holiday. It's just like, why was that in there? Like, man. So I've learned, like, okay, every day I'm going to check, because there's always like one really good one between 6 ones that I've never heard of. But anyway, so just kind of looking through, last night, the movie Judgment at Nuremberg came on. So that's a 1961 flick with really an all-star cast, which is surprising to me, because the movie, and like they tell you at the beginning, if you've ever watched anything on TCM, they give you that little, the host gives you a little backstory of stuff. And it's funny because they're saying, like, how do you keep people in suspense about 4 Nazi judges at Nuremberg? Like, I think the one guy said, it's not like there's going to be like a surprise witness at the end that these guys are going to get off.
Right.
Know what's going to happen. So, and there's not a lot of location changes. I mean, it's the courtroom. It's the trial.
It's a lot of
Spencer Tracy.
It's a lot of bright lights, sunglasses, and headphones.
Exactly. Yeah. So Spencer Tracy kind of heads it off. Burt Lancaster, Montgomery Clift shows up. Judy Garland, Marlene Dietrich. And one of the 4 judges is Werner Klemperer, who most of us all know as Colonel Klink from Hogan's Heroes, but he played one of the Nazi judges, or one of the Nazi judges on trial. But so it's in 1961. I mean, it's black and white. It's Spencer Tracy. You're going to see a very young and sharp-looking William Shatner as kind of his aide as a captain in the Army. So watched the first half last night. We're going to finish it up tonight after this episode. But so it's funny. It's kind of the same subject that you just kind of fell into. I mean, my wife's the Holocaust nerd. I am not. I mean, I don't know, man. I just don't want to read about it.
Yeah.
I don't want to know. Like I know enough to where I know I don't want to know anymore. I guess I don't know how to put it. That's just a sad, just what happened to humanity not that long ago. Not that long ago. There's kids that were liberated from a concentration camp that are 80-year-old people right now.
But I think it's very important to detail, though, because they are, well, not only are they the last survivors because of how young they were, but especially when it comes to history, they are perfect to point out when people say, well, that happened so long ago. It didn't happen that long ago. There's people still alive who were there. And so,
Right.
it's, and not only were there people still alive who were there, but there was the people who were alive who were there during the worst part, at least is what the citizens could deal with. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know, it's just when people think of the atrocities of World War II, they think of the concentration camps, and there were kids there who were 5, 6, 10, 4 who were still alive. And so it's like, it wasn't that long ago. But
no, not at all. And
go ahead.
Go ahead.
But in this documentary, I don't know how I feel about this woman yet, because one, in the preview, you heard her giving a speech of where she forgives somebody on the behalf, and some of the other survivors are like, what gives you the right? And I understand, and this isn't what I have a problem with. This, I don't really have a problem with it. This isn't the part that makes me scratch my head. The part I'm going to tell you about next is the part that makes you scratch your head, and the part where she really kind of inadvertently offended some of the other survivors. So there's this doctor named Dr. Hans Munich. He was a German Nazi Party member who also worked with the SS Doctor at Auschwitz, but he was one of the very few acquitted at the Nuremberg trials because of some of the Auschwitz survivors said that he was personally responsible for saving their lives. So, I mean, it doesn't mean he didn't do horrible things, but he was one of the few that, were not sentenced to, death. And so in like 1993, she tracks him down. No, not 1993, 1995. It was the 50th anniversary. So she tracks this doctor down and goes and has a sit down with him and showing him photos. And then she says, oh, I'm heading over to Auschwitz on the 50th anniversary. Do you want to come? And of course, he wants to make amends and all that. But I guess she didn't really think to fly it by the people who are organizing this event. You're going to have all these survivors who are there for the 50th anniversary. And she comes walking in arm in arm with this guy. Hey, look who I brought. It's like, and the narration's like, there were some concerns and some people who were outraged. You think? Yes, it's great. It's great that you found, for you personally, the best way to lose the nightmares is to forgive people. And this guy, in the interview they showed you sitting down, looks like, he says he has nightmares. He's repented, and that's fine too. But maybe just hear me out before you drag him down to Auschwitz on the 50th anniversary. Maybe blowing a phone call to the organizers, some of the other people who are going to be there, give them a heads up. Just a thought. But so
that's pertinent intel right there.
yeah. Hey, I don't know. Maybe she thought since enough people stood up for him at the Nuremberg trials, they didn't kill him. But that's still. I mean, that's still. She said the very first time she went back, because she left Israel and had been living in Indiana since 1966. But when she decided to go back to Auschwitz, her husband was a survivor too, but he didn't want to go, which I completely understand. I forget what airline. It was a German airline that she took. It was a direct flight, and she didn't really think about it because obviously most Germans speak English, and you think you're on an international airplane. She says she gets on the airplane and they taxi out, and all of the airline's instructions from the stewardess is all in German. And she's like, "This is the first time since 1944 I've been in a locked location with rows and rows of people, dim lighting, and hear nothing but German." She's like, if that plane wasn't sealed up and on the taxi, she's like, I would have gotten out of there as quick as I could. And I could only imagine. And the other interesting thing is, in this documentary in 01, she's like, because she was 11 when she was in Auschwitz, and that's why her memory's so clear, because it's not like she was 5. She was 11 years old. And she was talking about one of the things they would do is they would lock her and her sister in a room for hours on end and then compare like how their pupils dilated, turn lights and all this. And while she's telling a story, the document, I don't know if they arranged it or she just so had an appointment with the optometrist, but they're sitting in the room with the optometrist and they're putting the equipment down and dilating her pupils while they're narrating her telling a story about all the experiments that happened to her with the Dr. Mengele and the eyes and stuff. And her friend was talking, and she's like, she'd be upset if I told you this, but you can definitely tell she has some telltale signs of someone who's had everything. Literally, with the exception of her twin sister who died, while they're in their 70s. Her mom, her husband, and her brothers were all, she hadn't seen them since the day they showed up at Auschwitz. But her friend was saying the trauma, the psychological effect of having everything you have stripped away from you, even though she has now been free and out of that situation 3 times longer than the years of horrors that she was there, to this day, well, in 2001, whenever she'd go to sleep, she would sleep laying on top of her purse. She would have all her doors like triple locked. And like if they went to a hotel room or anywhere where there was food, and you hear this part all the time, people, they would just grab a biscuit or roll and wrap it up and put it in their purse. And it just struck you when she put it this way. She's like, could you imagine living in such a way where all your belongings, all your identity, all your family, everything you personally own was taken away from you, that now, after all these years, you still sleep with your most valuable possessions in your purse underneath your blankets with you, even at that age. And that just goes to show you, like, holy hell, people don't even think about that. Yeah. And my brother and I were kind of talking about this shortly on our OG5 podcast, which is up on Patreon. So if you're a Patreon member, head over there and launch your Patreon app, and you can listen to the OG5 podcast. And I don't want to get into it here, but I was telling people when it comes down to what's going on in the Middle East, and there's a good documentary called The Longest Road Home, or Long Trip Home, and it was basically about how Israel came to be in the form in which we know it now. And it was interesting because we hear about the Holocaust, we hear about the final solution, the rounding up the Jews, and then we hear, the war ended and everybody lived happily ever after. No. Those Jews who were liberated from concentration camps, I would say 80% of them lived in Red Cross camps for 4 or 5 years, just because the Nazis gave up and the war ended, the anti-Semitism didn't just dry up. All those people's land, property, businesses were gone. Some of them, when they did try to go home, they were ran out of town, and they literally, until like, the war in 45. A lot of these guys, men and women were displaced until like 1953. They were basically going from camp to camp for almost 10 years until a lot of them ended up going to Israel or finally finding a place in different parts of Europe or United States or Canada where they could finally put down roots. And so, yeah, 1945 ended, the war ended, but their war didn't.
Right.
The direct trauma and annihilation of their species ended, but it took them 10 years, for a lot of them, just to find a place they could move into and call a home without being ran out of town. It's just so insane.
Yeah.
So if you guys
Yeah,
if you're into documentaries and you want to look at the interesting fact of this, once again, it's called Forgiving Dr. Mengele. I'm about an hour and a half into it, and it's pretty interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, sounds like it. That's funny that you mentioned some of that stuff because that's something I wanted to cover. And we can do it now. We can do it later.
Yeah, we can do it now.
Last episode that we did, I was in the middle of a book, and I told you, so I'm gonna try to have it done before the next episode that we do. And I not only have that one done, I'm about halfway through the next one. So, if you don't mind, I'll cover that right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because we like to do this. I like to do it every episode because I like to review books for people. So, Winging a Prayer by Harry Crosby. I mean, it's like the old Bible for the 8th Air Force, probably the best, at least air war memoir that there probably is. If you've never read any book about the air war in Germany, this is probably the best one to start out on because it's such an easy read. The guy's like your buddy when he's telling you the story. There's no over exaggerations. It's pretty cut and dry, but there's enough comedy. There's enough flirtatious British women. It's not over the top. It's the man's real story.
Sure.
And it's incredible. And the fact that this guy survived, I'm so thankful that this guy wrote this book because it's a really cool part of history. But so finished that one up and picked up another one.
Well, before we move on to the next one, let me just ask you, because you kind of talk about the easy read. When it comes to you and the books you prefer to read, do you find it more appealing, more, I guess, easier to get lost in if it's more first-person accounts, or you into the logistics, the dates, the documentation side of the book? Which way do you lean?
So that all has to do, I guess, with my mood. Typically, I read heavier books. If you want to learn about the Pacific War, you need to read Ian Toll's trilogy. But it's like it's reading statistics. I mean, it's a good read. It's not necessarily dry if you're used to what I read. But I read stuff to try to understand it. And if I want to understand a battle, if I want to know the logistics, if I want to understand it from a strategic or a tactical standpoint, I read those books. I don't read a memoir because a memoir is this guy's war. He doesn't know what's going on around him. He doesn't know what other units are doing. He doesn't know the backstory to the orders that he's going, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Why am I stuck out here? Why are we attacking the same thing we just attacked yesterday? Because he doesn't see the big picture. I know that. I've met so many people that know more about what I did in Baghdad than I did. And I was there.
Yeah.
But it wasn't for me to know, So it's interesting making that connection now. That same thing. I probably know more about battles from the Second World War than guys who were there because they only had their little sliver. So I stick with a book, whether it's an easy read or a really hard read. There's a couple that kind of hit the top of my head as far as a really hard read is probably books like At Dawn We Slept, everything you could ever possibly want to know about Pearl Harbor. But it's 25 years worth of research. It's a healthy book. It's just what it is. But I get stuck on a subject. So Harry Crosby's book there is probably the 6th book in a row that I've been reading about the Air War and the 8th Air Force. Now, I peppered in a couple. I read a book about the Titanic just to kind of like, okay, casual reading. Yeah, it's still history, but or I'll pepper in some World War I stuff. But I guess it just depends. If once you kind of understand, and the first 3 or 4 books is really you understand the operations of how the 8th Air Force was established, what its mission was, why it was so hard, but why they stuck to what they were doing, no matter what the losses were in the spring of '43. They stuck to it. That's what they did. It was a strategic plan, and it worked. But then when you really want to know what it's like to clang around inside a B-17 in a navigator seat when you're trying to, figure out exactly where you're at and rendezvous a bunch of other groups behind you, and you're hitting flak over Bremen, then a book like this, it doesn't matter. You don't need to know the transition between Ira Acre and when Doolittle took over the Air Force, and then how the 15th Air Force was operating out of Italy and hitting other. You don't need to get into it. Doesn't matter. Let's just enjoy the book and smell the cordite.
I don't know if it's because I grew up with a learning disability or the fact that I didn't start leisure reading until I was in my mid-30s, but I'm kind of the opposite way. I'm the same as you when I get stuck on a series or a location. I'm looking at my books, I read the Band of Brothers book, and then I got like the other books from other people, Easy Company, who weren't covered in there. I got the Babe Hepburn book, and then I went to the Pacific, and I got, I'm over here looking, I got You'll Be Sorry, I got Helmet for My Pillow, I got the book that they wrote after the movie The Pacific, I got the Battleground of the Pacific, I got Guadalcanal Diaries, this and that. But I was just thinking, I'm kind of like you, but I do it backwards. I'll read all the first-person accounts, right? I'll even read it 2 or 3 times. And then I'll get familiar with whether it's Guadalcanal or Tarawa, this and that. And then I will go and read the logistic versions, because then in my mind, I can picture the first-hand accounts that I've already read once or twice of them performing, going across the air base at Peleliu or the landings at Tarawa or, Bougainville and all that. And then I go back and read the logistic parts of it. And it kind of, for me, fills it in all nice and neat, because now I'm already dedicated. I'm already pot committed, because I've already read so much about these guys who were there. They talk about, Alligator Creek or, this and that. And then for a perfect example, reading Helmet for My Pillow and With the Old Breed. And then when you read Sid Phillips's You'll Be Sorry, that's the first time. And then Lecky covers it in Strong Men Armed. But Helmet for My Pillow is the first time I had heard anybody talk about something as important but historically mundane as the union labor strike in New Zealand with the offloading of the chips, and how that probably wouldn't have been as interesting to me if I hadn't already read the other books and known the amount of logistics and stuff required. And then here's Sid Phillips that we heard talked about in With the Old Breed, him actually going into great detail, talking about working the work detail where it was raining so much that all the labels were falling off and the cardboard boxes are falling apart, and they had mounds of soggy cornflakes stacked up here and there. And so for me, it's I'm kind of like you, where I get stuck on something and I want all the information. But for me, I tend to read the first-hand accounts first and then go back and read the logistical stuff, which ties it all together in a way that my little mind can handle it.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I just kind of, it just seems like books kind of find me. I'll have a book on the shelf for like 3 years, and I'll pick it up, and I'm like, no. Yeah. And I may do that 3 or 4 times. And then the one time, like, okay, like I'm about to finish, like I'm never not in a book. So before I'm done with a book, I know what's next in line.
Yep.
So I don't have that gap. There's no lag. And that if I sit there in front of my bookcase and there's just nothing. It's not hitting me. All right, time to get on Amazon.
Well, that's where I'm lucky. There's a huge flea market here called Flea Masters. And in the main pavilion, there's this bookstore that's 4 or 5 lanes long. It's been around for 20 years. And they have a huge military book section. And you can just stand back and scan the books. And you can tell the old ones because they usually have a solid color hardback. It's usually green or maroon. Has some fade to it. And so you can just stand back at a distance, peruse those, and then grab those out and say, oh, this was written in 1956. This is only $3 for a stand account. Cool. And I'll stack up books. And then I'll just bring them home, throw them on my bookshelf, and kind of like you're saying, as you read through it. And right. I'll get some for presents and all that. And like someone got me The Fatal Dive I've yet to crack into. I haven't got into my Navy side yet. But when I get into the Navy, wanting to get into submarine battles, I already got a book here called The Fatal Dive, and I think I have another one down there too. So it's definitely got a lot of reading to do, but it's so nice, and I think it's not only nice but important to do that now with how much addiction we have when it comes to digital devices. And do yourself a favor, if you are reading but you're one of these cats or kittens, if you will, I guess if we're talking Tiger King terminology here, if you're one of these people who find yourself reading on a Nook or a tablet or your phone, that's cool if that's the quickest way for you to acquire information, but there's just something about putting down the device and picking up an old school book. And I personally prefer hardbacks, but I won't steer away from a softback. But there's just something about a book and having a lot. If you had looked at me in 21 and say, hey, when you're in your 40s, you're going to have a library of World War II books, I'd look at you like you're insane, because once again, I didn't read back then. I didn't even read comic books. I hated reading. And so the fact that I'm staring across my studio at probably 50 books, and I've read probably 39 of them. and that's not counting the fact that I've run with the Old Breed 3 times. I read Helmet for My Pillow 3 times, and Strong Men Armed, which is a hefty book. I've read that one twice. But yeah, it's definitely. Now, what's the second book that you parlayed into?
Yeah. So it's same topic, and I'll tell you before I get into that I have really found it hard to read a book twice.
Really?
Not hard to do it, but I have. So I've got in my office in the house, I've got over 600 books in there.
Wow.
That's not counting the books I've got scattered all throughout the house. I mean, I've got stacks of books that they're just kind of the decoration. They're, 1920s, 1930s, first edition books that just look cool old hardback books. So there's books that I would really love to read more than once, but it's like, man, maybe when I'm 90, but there's too many that I've never read. So this one, man, what a book so far. I'm only about halfway through it. So maybe, I don't know if you've heard about it. A Higher Call, Adam Akos. Holy smokes, man. My brother told me about this book a couple of years ago. He got the audio version, so he was listening to it on his way to work. And again, this is one of those books, I've had it for a while, and I'm just kind of like, some of this doesn't look like he gets into I don't know, it's just a bunch of names. Like, I don't know, and I put it down. And once I finished Harry Crosby's book, the same night that I put his down, I picked it up again, and I just opened it up, like, okay, the first paragraph, it gripped me. And I couldn't put it down. And I don't want to give too much of the book away, but it's essentially the story of the author is a huge war. So this cat's like you and me, man. He's probably about our age. World War II buff, huge World War II buff. As a kid, did a newsletter in middle school through high school, and grew it even through college. Same buddies. Did a World War II newsletter, and it sent it out. They had a couple thousand readers by the time they were in college. All they did was go around and interview World War II vets and document it in this newsletter.
Nice.
And one of the rules that they had was they don't talk to the enemy. They don't want to hear what the enemy has to say. They're the Nazis, they're the Japanese, they're the bad guys. We don't talk about the bad guys. We only, talk about our guys. And he even mentions going to air shows and walking straight past Oscar Bosch and purposely not talking to him because he said I didn't care what he had to say. He didn't want to listen to it. And if our listeners will remember, if they don't, they can go back a couple episodes to the episode where I talk about where I sat down with Oscar Bosch at an air show and listen to his story from being a Luftwaffe fighter pilot, which was intriguing. So long story short, this guy hears about a B-17 pilot, lives up in the Northwest, and was, oh, man, we got to go interview him. He goes up there to see him, and the pilot says, I'll tell you my story, but you got to talk to this guy up in Vancouver. His name is Franz Stiegler. He's the hero of the story. And like, not going to talk to the enemy. I don't care. I went through the whole spiel, and B-17 pilot told him, like, okay, if you don't talk to him, you're not going to get anything out of me.
Wow.
I'll tell you my story after you talk to him. He's the hero of the story, not me. And it's essentially about this 109 pilot that escorted a
I remember that story. Yep.
Everybody's heard that.
Well, we've heard like 5 seconds of it on a, brought up on it. Did you know this happened? Or, one of these quick montages in something on a History Channel. We've all heard it, but we haven't heard it.
This is the story. And it took him, I want to say it was about 8 years for him to put the stories together because the quick trip to Vancouver wasn't enough. Then he goes back to speak with the B-17 pilot. And that wasn't enough time to compile to publish this book. So he, for years, he inserts, I think, with an SF team overseas, so he knows what combat is like on the ground.
Wow.
He flies in a B-17 to understand what that's like in a 17. The guy's unbelievable. I just started following him on Instagram. I'd love to reach out to him, like, dude.
Well, go ahead. I was getting ready to say, I'm looking at his website, and if you like the way he writes, he's just coming out with a new book now called Spearhead, The American Tank Gunner, His Enemy, and the Collision of Lives in World War II. I'll send you his website's just his name.com, AdamMakos.com. Reach out to him, send him an email. I think it'd be better served if you did it because you're familiar with his book and your enthusiasm will come out in that email. And just tell me, you can go through our archives. I think when I first started, I interviewed like one or two other authors on here. So we have a history of interviewing authors. And so if he's interested in my interview style, whatever, go through the archives and you can send him, if you haven't read, for you new listeners, The Forgotten 500, that is a fantastic story. And I had the author on talking about that. And we had Bonnyman Jr., the author of Bones of My Grandfather. He's been on the podcast. I'm actually looking at his book right now. But yeah, I'd love to get back into kind of the roots of this podcast and getting authors on and anyone who's involved in the preservation and the telling of the history. So please put that on your homework list and reach out to him and actually. Okay, yeah, he's been on Fox News. He's been on that Sunday mornings show where they like go around and do history. But he's been featured on Netflix too. So yeah, he'd definitely be interesting to have on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it caught my attention right away. The kid grew up in Pennsylvania. Both of his grandfathers served in World War II. Growing up building model airplanes, I was like, man, this guy, it got me right there. But I'll tell you what, let me read that first paragraph, just a couple of sentences, and just to whet people's appetite. Because this is what I picked up. And like I said, couldn't put it down after reading this. On December 20, 1943, in the midst of World War II, an era of pain, death, and sadness, an act of peace and nobility unfolded in the skies over northern Germany. An American bomber crew was limping home in their badly damaged B-17 after bombing Germany. A German fighter pilot and his Bf-109 fighter encountered them. They were enemies, sworn to shoot one another from the sky. Yet what transpired between the fighter pilot and the bomber crewman that day, and how the story played out decades later, defies imagination. It had never happened before, and it has not happened since. What occurred, in most general terms, may well be one of the most remarkable stories in the history of warfare. As remarkable as it is, it's a story I never wanted to tell. And that goes back to interviewing the enemy for his
Yep.
newsletter.
That is a fantastic written paragraph. I mean, I can see how it just scooped you into the story. And kind of like we were talking about before, when you get stuck in whether it's a theater of operations, a particular battle scenario, a particular island, a particular campaign, when you make that transition from one book to another, if the subject matter is close enough, it's almost like watching a series, like going from one movie to another or one episode of The Pacific to another. You're taking that enthusiasm, that mind state, because if you're reading properly, it's almost like a movie in your head, and you're just switching into part two, and you're just carrying that enthusiasm and that timeline in your head, that movie, and you're just going on to part two. Different characters,
Yeah.
same area, same theme, but just a different campaign.
Yeah, exactly. And what really helped me understand this bombing campaign, if I could really narrow it down to one book, it's the one that it's going to be the next Hank Spielberg miniseries, The Masters of the Air. Dude, that book, I mean, it's going to tell you everything. And yeah, there's not a book about the 8th Air Force that you're going to pick up afterward where these names are not going to interchange.
The movie, the series that feels like it'll never come. We've been talking about it for so long. It's like, oh, they're in post production. Nah, they're just getting the uniforms stitched together, huh?
Yeah, right. They just named their cast. Like, oh, okay. But yeah, so I'm hoping. I would love to see this as a movie. I'd love to figure out a way to make this movie. I want to be Adam Makos meeting these two guys. I'm too old now to be the bomber pilot or a tail gunner or something. I mean, they do it in movies all the time. John Wayne hit Iwo Jima, and he was like 50, whatever.
Well, I'm going through his Instagram page, and he has recent photos with the guy from the tanker crew that he wrote the Spearhead about.
Yeah.
Well, 2019, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Real quick,
So,
you're talking. Real quick, just before I forget, you're talking about old movies. Do you have a smaller family-owned like movie theater in your town, or is it the big corporation ones?
Yeah, it used to be. It's kind of commercialized now.
Well, check them out because they may offer it. We have one here called the Marquee Theater, and apparently they have one in Huntington, West Virginia, another one in West Virginia, Tennessee, West Virginia, North Carolina, so Florida, the East Coast. But the reason I bring it up is whenever I go see a movie, they'll run a trailer where they have flashback cinema. Like every Wednesday at a matinee, you can go in there.
Yeah.
And like this week right now, you can go in there and see Citizen Kane, Gone with the Wind, To Kill a Mockingbird, Tremors, Wizard of Oz, and The Dark Knight, Grease, and Trading Places. And so they have comedies. They got the old classics. But every once in a while, you'll go in there, and I always forget because I'm there with my kids, but they'll have, like The Longest Day or some of these older style World War II movies. And it'd be so cool to see those on the big screen with the, even though a lot of it would be dated, but the sound effects and just having that big screen experience with some of those older flicks would be super cool.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I didn't know. You may want to check out your local theater and see if they ever have those popping up anytime soon.
Speaking of movies, before we cut out here, I mentioned on the Instagram post advertising for this episode tonight, the GI Film Festival is this weekend. That's out of San Diego, California. It's all military-based movies. And for Walking Point and of course the genesis of our friendship and partnership here, it's kind of full circle for them because the initial pilot was featured at the GI Film Fest in San Diego. I want to say in like 2015.
Yeah.
So now here we are, fast forward to, the full short film, a very long short film for Walking Point. And here we are getting accepted in the 2021 Film Fest out there. So not only that, and I know there's a lot of other really cool military base. I know I was kind of reading on some of them that they're gonna screen. It's a virtual screening, so you can just go to GI Film. I think it's just gifilm.org, or maybe it's gifilmfestival.org. To check them out, to do a virtual screening of all these military-based movies, and some that I know that's about PTSD and dealing with that. But I've got a distinct pleasure that I'll be joining, being part of the Q&A panel after the virtual screening. So we'll be there to kind of answer questions from people who have just seen the movie. And then there's, I don't know, about 8 or 10 of us that are going to be in this panel that represent some of the other movies to kind of answer questions. So that's really exciting. I know it's exciting for everybody from the Walking Point crew, and it's exciting for me personally to get to talk to potentially other actors or producers, directors, whatever.
Yep.
You never know when the big break's going to happen. Not that I expect one, but I am looking forward to doing another military production for sure.
Oh, absolutely. We'll have to do a podcast while you're like fresh afterwards, like the next day or, whatever. We'll have to do a podcast with you while you're out there. And for those of you who still haven't seen it, not only is it on Vimeo, but it's also on Amazon Prime Video. So if you have a Prime account and you have Amazon on your cable box or your computer, just type in Walking Point. It's there. You can view it, all 27 minutes of it. You can see Jeff. You can see this great short little film, and it's definitely, even during 2020 when everything was closed down, the few virtual film festivals that still continued, it was winning awards and getting praises. And I had the distinct pleasure of watching the filming of that final scene, and it's, even when I watch it, like I'm watching the trailer on Amazon as we're talking about, and I just saw him up there with the samurai sword, and I just have flashbacks of that scene and how well the squib bag worked that day. Put some distance on that stuff. But yeah, my belt still has blood on it from that movie. Fun fact, my contribution to that short film, not to give anything away, there's a scene in it where there's a corpse and they needed a belt, and I had my P-42s on that day, and so I donated my belt to the cause, and on the back side of it, it still has some Hollywood blood stain on my belt. So a little piece of me was in that movie.
There you go.
And What's the Scuttlebutt is thanked in the credits, so we get a little love there. So if you guys stick around long enough to watch the credits, you'll see special thanks to What's the Scuttlebutt podcast. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode. You got anything you want to say before we hit the road?
No, I hope next time we get some callers and we get some feedback. We can't necessarily do this for free, so hopefully people will start subscribing and sponsoring. I need a microphone. I need cool earphones. I need to make like World War II earphones, but like that work,
It's
get a crush cap.
It's funny you say this. It's not World War II, but I have a 1950s style, and if you watch the original movie version of The Right Stuff, they're talking into this microphone. This is a 1950s electric voice model 664, and I want to take it in to have it rewired so that I can plug it into the board here and do an episode through the model 664 electric voice. Even though it's from the 50s, it'd be interesting to see the difference in quality between a 2018 AKG microphone and like a 1950s electric voice. But yep.
All right.
That's going to wrap it up, and we will talk to you guys next week. Thank you so much. And as Jeff said, please head over to WTSPWorldWar2.com. Click on the Patreon link. You can subscribe. It's $1 a month. You can also sign up for the $3.50 a month and the $7 a month. If you sign up for the $7.50 a month, after month 2, I will send you a free t-shirt. And not only are you supporting us, but you do get access to the OG5 podcast, which we got to get Jeff on. And I got to start getting some more exclusive video content up for you there for you guys. And if you want to see the video format of this, we also live stream, and the existing copy will stay on our YouTube channel. And so if you head over to youtube.com, you can support us that way. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers. When we get to that point, we'll be monetized on YouTube. You can help support the channel that way. We're halfway there, but not close enough. So there's 2 other ways you can support the podcast. And the third, when you head over to WTSPWorldWar2.com, you can buy our shirts there as well and use the promo code ILISTEN, and that'll save you a few bucks on your shipping. Thank you guys so much. I'm Don Abernathy, and on the behalf of Jeff Copsetta, we will talk to you all next week. Well, not next week, but next time. Hopefully it'll be next week. We definitely got to get more and more of these put together more consistently. But Jeff, thank you so much. And the audience, thank you guys so much. And we will talk to you soon.